Hello and a very good morning to everybody. Today, I, Suyesh Pandey, along with my friend Yash Bansal, are here to give you the explanation for our Python project. The first and foremost thing that must be coming to your mind is that what is the topic of our project? So, without any delay, I'm going to tell you that the topic of our project is a speed typing test, which will not only tell you your typing speed in words per minute, but also give you the accuracy as well as the time taken by you. So, let's begin. First of all, let us understand the file structure of the Python project along with the source code that we are going to build. We have also shared our screen, so you must be able to see our code along with my explanation. So we have created a folder which contains our Python files. So the first file in that folder would be the background.jpg file. That is a background image which we will use in our program. The second file that would be contained in the folder is icon.png, which is an icon image that we will use as a reset button. The third file would be sentences.txt, which would be a text file which would contain all the list of sentences separated by a new line. Then the fourth file would be the main program file that contains all the code, and its name is speedtyping.py. And the fifth file would be typingspeedopen.png, which is the image to display when we are starting the game again and again. That is, it would basically act as a reset button. So first of all, we have created that sentences.txt file in which we have added multiple sentences separated by a new line. And the most important thing in this project is that we have used an object-oriented approach in this program, which you would get to know in the later stages of this explanation. So the first thing that we had done in our project is imported the necessary libraries that would be used in this project. So the first for this project based in Python, we are using the Pygame library mainly. So we need to import this library along with some built-in modules of Python like time and random library. Import pygame is the syntax which would be which we used for importing the pygame library. Then from pygame.locals import star would import all the necessary modules in pygame, which we would use in our program. Then we have imported the system time and random modules libraries of this Python. Then the second thing that we have done is creating the game class. Now we have created the game class. We will create the game class, which will involve many functions responsible for starting the game as well as resetting the game and a few helper functions to perform calculations that are required for a project in Python. So the next thing is draw text method. Draw text is basically a function that we have used in our program. The draw text method of game class is a helper function that will draw the text on the screen. Now I didn't tell you that we have created a game class in this program, which is because we have used an oriented approach. So we need to create a game class which would contain all the functions. So the draw text is another function which we have created in the game class, which will draw the text on the screen which we need to type, which so that we can calculate our typing speed accordingly. The argument it takes is the screen, the message we want to draw, the y coordinate of the screen to position our text, and the size and as well as the color of the font. You can see in the code that def draw underscore text, that is the draw text function, contains five parameters, namely self, which is the object that we have created in our class, screen, message, y, that is the y coordinate, f size, that is the font size, as well as color. Then we will draw everything in the center of the screen so that our UI looks good. After drawing anything on the screen, Pygame requires us to update the screen. So now we have used the syntax pygame.display.update to update the screen regularly. Now the next thing that we have done is created the show results method. That is the show results function. So in that function, this is the function where we basically calculate the speed of the user typing. The time starts when the user clicks on the input box and when the user hits return key, that is enter, then we perform the difference and calculate time in seconds. For calculating the time in seconds, we have initialized two variables, that is start and time underscore start and then another time. And then we will calculate the difference between these two times to calculate the time taken by the user to type the required sentence. To calculate accuracy, we did a little bit of math. That is, we counted the correct typed characters by comparing input text with the display text which the user had to type. The formula for accuracy is correct characters into 100 upon total characters in sentence. This is basically unitary method and it is simple mathematics. Now we will calculate the words per minute, that is WPM. A typical word consists of around 5 characters, so we have taken the word length of a word to 5 characters. And accordingly, we calculate the words per minute by dividing the total number of words with 5, and then the result is again divided that with the total time it took in minutes. Since our total time was in seconds, we had to convert it into minutes by dividing the total time with 60. At last, we have drawn the typing icon image at the bottom of the screen, which we'll use as the reset button. When the user clicks it, our game would reset. We will see the reset game function method later in this presentation. So now I would explain you the code regarding the same. So show underscore results function is the name of the function, which would take two parameters, basically self, which is the object that we have created in the game class, and the second is screen. Now for calculating the time, you can see that the code for that is self dot total underscore time is equal to time dot time minus self time underscore start. That means this is the final time minus initial time, which would contain the total time in seconds, which we have taken for typing the particular sentence. For calculating accuracy, we have used a simple logic. That is, we have initialized the count of a variable as 0, and then we have run a for loop for the total number of input text for all the characters that we have entered as an input. Then if we see the character, if the character is same as the word that we required, then we would increment the count by 1 so as to calculate the correct number of characters, and then this count would be incremented that number of times, that is the correct number of characters we have entered, and then we can get the total number of characters that we have created using the count variable. Now self dot accuracy is equal to count of divided by length of the word into 100. This is the formula for counting the accuracy. Now for calculating the words per minute, the code is self.wpm is equal to length. Length is the function that is used in Python to calculate the length of a string. So we have used it to calculate the length of the input text, and we have multiplied it by 60 because we need the words per minute in words per because we need the speed in words per minute, not in words per second. And then we have divided it by 5, which is the average length of a word, and multiplied by the total time. Now we have printed the results on the screen, and after that we have printed them by converting the time as well as the accuracy in the string format, and then we have printed it. And after that we have loaded the image that we would use to reset the game so that we can play it again and again and calculate our typing speeds. So, and then we would update the screen again once more. And the last function that we have used in a program is reset game method. The reset game method resets all variables so that we can start testing our typing speed again. You also select a random sentence by calling the get underscore sentence method, which would be explained by my companion a few minutes after. In the end, we have closed the class definition and created the object of game class to run the program. So the reset underscore game function also contains the same object, that is self, which we have created in the game class of a program. And then we have asked it to update the screen so that we can see the new pop-up again with a different sentence. Then we have ended the program because if the program would not end, we cannot restart it. And then we have again initialized all the variables such as time underscore start, total time, and words per minute to 0 because we need to execute a program from the starting. And then for getting any random sentence, we have used the command self.word is equal to self.get underscore sentence function, which would be explained by Yash after a few minutes. Then for drawing the heading, we would use the code self.screen underscore self.screen.fill, which would fill the screen with the appropriate background color. And then we have again asked our message, that is this message, that is typing speed test, would be displayed on our UI when we would be entering the in the input box the required sentence. Then for drawing the sentence string, we have used the command self.draw.text, and then we have passed the appropriate parameters, that is self.screen, self.word, and then we have updated the screen again with the command pygame.display.update, and then we have called the run function. So this is it, and now Yash would explain you the all the other functions that are remaining in this program. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Yash Bansal and now I will give you an explanation of the remaining functions in our project. So let's start with the game class. First of all, we have created the game class which will involve many functions responsible for starting the game as well as resetting the game, and a few helper functions to perform the calculations that are required for our project in Python. A few of them has been explained to you already. And now let's start the explanation for the game class in detail. Let's go ahead and create the constructor for our class where we define all the variables we will use in our project. Here you can coming to the code, you can see we have created a class named game, and in which we have created a initialize function with self as an object, in which we had created the variables w as width, which was set at 750, h as height, which was set at 500, and reset variable which was set as true, and active variable as false, input text and word variables. And we had also created a time start and total time variables, which was set initially as 0, which will increase as our code runs and the user uses our application. Then accuracy variable to measure the accuracy of the user, and then the result variable which will show the result after a user stops typing and presses the enter, which will show the like report card of the user. And we had also created a WPM variable which was also set initially at 0, then end variable which will end the program, which initially we had set at a false. Then you can see these three variables, head, text, and result, which will which in which we had put RGB codes, which will give the color to head means heading, and text means color to the text, and result means the color to the result, which will show after the user after completely execution of the code. Then we had called the init variable of the pygame library, in which we had loaded the image type speed open.png and background.jpg. In this constructor, we have initialized the width and height of the window variables that are needed for calculation. And then we had initialized the pygame and loaded the images. The screen variable is the most important, on which we will draw everything. Okay, so now let's come to the get sentence method. Remember that we have a list of sentences in our sentence.txt file, which was also the part of our project. In this text file, many sentences are saved, which from which one of the random sentences will be picked by the code, and it will be shown on the screen. The get sentence method will open up the file and return a random sentence from the list, and we will split the whole string in the with the newline character, and the sentence text file includes some of list of some sentences that we had used to check the speed of an individual. In the code, you can see we had first we had created that get sentence function, sorry. Then we had created a variable open and a read to open that file and read the sentence from that file. Then we had to create the variable split to split the whole string into with a newline character. Then we created the random choice variable to choose one of the sentences randomly from that file. Then return that sentence to display that sentence on the main screen. That's about the get sentence method. So now let's come to another method, which is run method. This is the main method of our class that will handle all the events. We call that the reset game method at the starting of this method, which resets all the variables. Next, we run the an infinite loop, which will capture all the mouse and keyboard events. Then we draw the heading and the input box on the screen. When we then use another loop that will look for the mouse and keyboard events. When the mouse is pressed, then we check the position of the mouse. If it is on the input box, then we start the time and set the active to true. And if it is on the reset button, then we reset the game. When the active is true and typing is not ended, then we will look for the keyboard events. If the user presses any key, then we need to update the user on our input box. The enter key will end typing, and we will calculate the scores to display it. Another event of the backspace is to trim the input text by removing the last character. In the code, you can see after creating the run function with the self as an object, we had created a reset game variable. To reset the game running variable, we had set as true, and after calling that same running variable in while loop, which was already set as a true, then this while loop will run infinite times and become an infinite loop, in which we had called headc function and also the screen fill function. Then to update the text of an user input, we had set created the variable draw text of the self object and called the variable a pygame.display.update. And we had created a for loop for pygame.get event.get, in which we had created an if loop in which if the type of the event was quit, then self running variable of the self object will be set as false and the system will exit. Then to specify the position of the input box, we had used an if loop in which we had used many inequalities in along the x direction as well as y direction, and same with the reset box. These two are the boxes that was included in our project, which you will see during the execution of the program. After which we had used another loop, another if loop with the key variable of an event object, in which we had written we had called the key return variable of the pygame, which is used to print the input text which was shown in the self object. Then we had called another again the draw text variable of the self object and set the self and the variable to as true. And if this self not accepted is true, then if this is not true, then self dot input text variable of the self object will be appended by Unicode variable of the event object, and it will pass. Then we had again called the pygame.display.update and tick variable of the clock which was set as 60. So that's all about the code of our project. And now let's see the execution of our code. Okay, so without not spending further more time on the code, let's run the code and see the execution of our project. So this is the UI of our project where typing speed test was the heading, and this was the sentence. We have made this project using Pygame and some other libraries. And this was the text box where user can type the sentence. So let's type. Here you can see this was the result in red color, where which shows the time, accuracy, and words per minute. And we had also used an image of a speedometer.
Hello everyone. Now I would also give you a demo of this typing speed project. So these are all the files which I had told you earlier in this explanation. That is the background.jpg file, icon.png, sentences.txt, which contains all the sentences that would be required for calculating the speed, and this is the page which we have created as a welcome page. This is the speed typing test, which is a Python Ansel project as well, and our mentor Dr. Ankush Vashish, and this is created by us. And these are the sentences that we have included in the project. So let's jump right to the project. I have opened the project here, and now I would execute it. Now as soon as I click on this, I have to type the sentence. So you can see that the elapsed time is 8 seconds. My accuracy was 100% and the words per minute that I can type is 55 words per minute. Now let's check our speed again. I would execute the program again. I could have also used the reset button, but I prefer to run the program again from the module. So this time you can see that the elapsed time was 10 seconds, accuracy was 100%, and the words per minute which I can type is 62 words per minute. Now we can also reset this button, and now you can see that the next sentence is here, and let's type it again and check our speed. You can see that this time the time was 14 seconds because of my error, and the accuracy is 100% again, but the words per minute which I could type is 51. So this is our project. You can also see that in the ideally shell, it always prints the correct time. That is, I took 10.42 seconds in with 100% accuracy in typing 62 words per minute, which was measured using the sentence. This is the Python project of two students of Triple IT Quota. And now you can also see that the next sentence was different, and that sentence was that this project has been made by Suyash Pandey and Yash Bansal. Now the time which I took to write this sentence was 14.18 seconds, which is rounded off to 14 seconds. The accuracy was again 100%, but the words that I could but my speed was slow this time, so the approximated words per minute is 51. So this is our project. You can see that our code is working absolutely fine and perfect, and it is measuring the appropriate typing speed. So I hope you liked our project and our explanation as well. So if you did like our explanation, please like the video. And that's all for today. Thank you and have a nice day.